Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the ICG's Digital Academy webinar series. I'm Sally Alsop, the committee member responsible for our webinar programme. So this is the third in our series of webinars about international research, and our discussion today will be moderated by ICG committee member Matt Kirby, with a panel of ICG members who each have expertise in conducting research in different European regions. Alexander Ekimov, Silvia Iranzo-Ferrandis, Camille Gerbeau, and Henrique Savelberg. Our panel will be discussing the following core topics: issues to consider when planning research in different parts of Europe, and how relationships with researchers from other countries have changed in recent years, and what their hopes are for the future. As usual, we'll encourage questions from the audience, and we'll be taking questions after each of the key themes that we'll be going through. So Matt will let you know when you can ask your questions if you would like to. So if you have something that you want to add to the discussion or a question to ask, either type it into the chat box as we go along, or raise your hand and put your webcam on so that you can ask your question and discuss directly with the panel members. So we're very grateful to Rigor Research for sponsoring this webinar. Rigor Research are a fully accredited data collection and analysis company, interviewing across Europe by CATI, online and face-to-face. Before we begin, here are some more events we have planned for you over the coming weeks. Don't forget that we're able to offer great value sponsorship opportunities with each of our webinars and online events. Just contact Lucy if you would like to know more or have any questions. So now I'm going to hand over to Matt, our panel moderator today, who will introduce our panelists. Are you there, Matt?
Right, we said that someone would do that, and it was me the first time I spoke. So thank you, Sally. As Sally said, this is the third in the series of international, in our international webinar series, and it's focused on Europe. And we have, well, I think we only have 3 at the moment, but hopefully we will have 4 highly experienced ICG members from across Europe to kind of form the panel. I think we're waiting for Alexander Ekimov to join. Alexander runs Kia Solutions. He's based in Bulgaria and has over 20 years.
Alex has joined.
He has joined. Great. He has over 20 years experience in market research as well as a spell in marketing. He does a wide variety of projects, including electoral, social, consumer, and B2B research, both single country and international projects. And today, Alexander will focus mainly on his experience in Bulgaria and the Balkans. Also, we have Silvia Iranzo-Ferrandis, who runs in-market research. She's based in Spain and has been working on international market qualitative research projects for 19 years, including consumer, B2B, and pharmaceutical projects. She is always searching for innovative methodologies and is considered a pioneer of online qualitative approaches in Spain. We have Henrique Savelberg, who runs Savelberg Research. He's a Dutch native, though he's now based in Switzerland. He's actually calling in from Thailand today. He has over 20 years experience running international market research projects and enjoys everything from deep diving with consumers to technical B2B projects on anything from agriculture to tires. Henrique has strong experience across Europe and Southeast Asia, but today will be focused on his experiences in the Netherlands and in Belgium. And last but not least, we have Camille Gerbeau, who runs CG Research. She was born in France, but is now based in the UK, and had over 14 years experience as a qualitative researcher, working for agencies in Paris and London. And as an independent consultant, Camille specializes in helping UK businesses bridge the cultural gap when conducting qualitative research in France. So that's our panel. They have a lot of experience, I think, working right across Europe, but they'll be focusing kind of mainly drawing in experience in their home markets today. So that's, as I said, that's France, Netherlands, Belgium, Spain, and Bulgaria, and the Balkans. We've got 2 major topic areas that we'll be talking about, the first of which is issues to consider when planning and conducting research in kind of those markets. And we'll talk about that, let all the panel speak and have a discussion, and then we'll open up, I think, to questions kind of relevant to that discussion at the end of that, and we'll have a kind of brief Q&A then, and then we'll move on to the second topic, which will be looking at kind of recent changes and kind of future changes in the relationships that with other researchers, and also with issues, you know, other changes that have happened and are kind of happening in the kind of the research world at the moment. So I think that's enough of me for the moment. So if Enrique will start us off talking about the first topic, which is the kind of thoughts to consider when planning and conducting research in the Netherlands and Belgium. So over to you, Enrique.
Thanks very much for the introduction, Matt. Yeah, now the first question about issues when considering planning and conducting research, I'm talking about Netherlands and Belgium. I'm Dutch native, and for Europe, I conduct mostly research in Netherlands and in Belgium. To answer that question, it's really more looking at Dutch culture and the Dutch communication style. So we cannot make generalizations, but it's really, it's quite typical for Dutch culture. Scheduling is big and being on time is important. So I would take that into account when you conduct research in the Netherlands, dealing with research suppliers and also research participants, that being on time is important. And then also the Dutch, as you probably will know, their communication style is known of being quite direct. So quite direct is speaking quite frankly in a straightforward manner. And sometimes some people, they misunderstand that and would see it more as rude. But it depends. If you are not used to this straightforward, direct way of communicating, then it may indeed come off as a bit rude or less diplomatic. While the Dutch, this direct openness in communication, this directness in communication, they see it more really as a well appreciated form of openness. So this directness, and that also differs a bit across the Netherlands. Again, we cannot generalize, but like in the largest cities, Amsterdam and Rotterdam, they tend to be more direct than if we go, for example, all to the north. If you go to the provinces of Friesland, Drenthe, Groningen, or all to the south, close to Belgium, Limburg province, the people there tend to be more reserved and less direct. About this directness and openness, it was just a few weeks ago, I was running an online focus group with the Netherlands, and just before starting the group, the host was saying to me, sorry, we have a participant and she has her baby, and she asked if she can participate with her baby in the focus group. It was quite exceptional. I didn't have this question before. We were going to do a 2 hours focus group of somebody participating with the baby in the online focus group. I had a quick thought, and we had a good backup respondent. So in that case, I chose to go for the backup respondent, as I would find it a bit. I wasn't sure we could have a good discussion with a baby joining for 2 hours. But I don't know. If you could see that as a way of being direct, asking this question just before starting, or maybe the lady didn't really have any other option. Also, this directness, openness, I can really see with recruiters. When you ask recruiters, especially B2B research in the Netherlands, and it is a bit of a difficult target, then the recruiters, my recruiters are always very frank and open if they think this will work. And sometimes they also will say, okay, we will spend a few hours on it and see, make some calls and see if it works, and then we evaluate again. I have the feeling that in some other markets, the recruiters may be less direct and straightforward in this judgment. Also in the warm-up of focus groups in the Netherlands, like the warm-up phase, when I do focus groups, normally it's I explain the objective of the study, We explain the house rules for the discussion, and we have some quick introductions. But once that is done, I have the feeling that in the Netherlands in general, the respondents are quite quickly ready to go to the research parts itself, while maybe in some other parts of Europe, there's more time needed to break the ice and to warm up. Also, this openness, individualism in the Netherlands, flat hierarchy. What is also quite known in the Netherlands, often everyone wants to have their say. Everyone has an opinion. With this openness, everyone has an opinion and has to say something about when you discuss something. This can be beneficial for research, but it can also be, in general, quite disturbing if everyone wants always to have their say and their opinion on something. Dutch also generally avoid over-exaggerating and will often tone down statements and compliments. Very typical for Dutch culture is also be normal, act normal. That's really part of the Dutch identity. Be normal, they say that all the time. Also the phrase of just act normal, then you already are crazy enough. So this saying is quite in the opposite of like the mentality in the United States. Then if I quickly just go to Belgium. Belgium is, although we have 60% of the Belgians speak Flemish, which is very close to the Dutch language. And they are geographically so close, it's very different. The Belgians are much more reserved, less direct, and more formal. They would see the Dutch as really more direct and maybe more loud. They say this loudness of the Dutch maybe also related to the Calvinist, while Belgium is really more Catholic heritage. What I mean with much more formal in Belgium, also you have the two ways of addressing, like in French, the tu and the vous. While in the Netherlands, you don't use the vous much anymore. Only in some cases when you speak to very senior people that are older or more formal situations, it's still much more common used in Belgium, this vous. So also in research, often I ask, is it okay if I say tu instead of vous? Then also, for Belgium, you really need to take into account there are 3 languages in Belgium, 60% Flemish, 33% French, and the rest German. If we look at Geert Hofstede and cultural dimension, Belgium really scores high on power distance and uncertainty avoidance. While the Netherlands, there's a very high score on individuality, also quite high score on uncertainty avoidance, and a very low score in the Netherlands on masculinity, on this equality. So these were just some examples and a bit of explanation about Netherlands and Belgium. So I would like to give the word to the other panelists, what they think about typically for their culture and their way of communication.
Thanks, Enrique. Who wants? Camille, do you want to go next? Or Sylvia, sorry.
No, it's fine.
You can go, Sylvia, if you prefer. I don't mind.
Okay, no worries. We're debating about our ways of communicating. I would say that some of the things, and I'm adding also in contrast to what Enrique has mentioned about the Netherlands and Belgium, is that in Spain, we're a lot less direct, although we are really quite open. So on the one hand, people are very opinionated, but they do not tone down how they feel. They go for it with the emotion and with whatever passion they hate or they love, whatever you're talking about, they will go ahead and express it most of the time. But to be able to get that out of the conversation, the discussions with participants, you do need a longer warm-up. So this is something that I find that is quite interesting and important, especially when I get like discussion guides coming from the US or sometimes from the UK, but especially from America. They establish like there's this 2-minute warm-up. And I know that's not gonna work in Spain. We need at least 5 to 8 minutes so that people get to open up their hearts, that they feel that they can relate to you, that they can trust you, and that you have a genuine interest in what they have to say. So if you actually stick to the 2 minutes, you'll get nothing. Or the whole conversation will be purely superficial in its entirety. So I think those are things that are important to know. Also, Enrique was talking about the formal and the informal way of addressing people. And I would say that nowadays, almost by default, and this is a debate, and different people have different opinions about it, but I would say in general terms, I would go for the informal way, especially when it comes to qualitative research, because you do want to bring barriers and boundaries down from people. So you want to feel close to your participant as opposed to establish a distance, which is what generally talking the Usted way does. It establishes a distance either because of hierarchy issues or because of age, or you're basically treating the other person as not an equal, but as somebody that deserves higher respect, for example. So it depends on the situation, because obviously when I speak to the elderly, when I speak to senior people, I think they do deserve that respect, and I start the conversation addressing them in the Usted way. But very soon in the conversation, they tend to say, "Oh no, please, Silvia, please talk to me as as if we know each other. Let's relax the conversation. There's no need to speak Usted way." And then I quickly move on to just informal addressing. There is other instances, like for example, in B2B business, you may be addressing people who are like business owners or managers who are quite high up. And then again, you should start by addressing them formally, and then maybe move on to informal, depending on how it feels in the conversation. The same thing can happen with people like doctors, for example, when it comes to pharma and healthcare, or with lawyers, with politicians, if you ever speak to politicians for research as well. But in general, when writing or translating screeners or discussion guides, I'd say 90% of the time is going to work better if you write it in the informal way. And then something else, Enrique was talking about being on time. I know that we have a bit of a bad press in Spain about being late. And so in general, I would say that people who are professionals usually are always on time. I think people who are going about their daily life, basically like normal consumers, they can be more relaxed and more, they can forget about the types of like focus groups or interviews. So you may have to reinforce that and ask recruiters to follow up and make sure that they're going to be on time, maybe build additional time to have them there earlier. Maybe it's best to offer them drinks and make sure that they're there on time in advance. And I always like to have more backups in general, just in case people do not show up. But that may or may not be dissimilar to other countries, but just my opinion. And maybe Camille can add on some things along these lines.
Yeah, that was super interesting, Sylvia, and there are definitely lots of similarities with France. I always make sure we have additional participants, backup participants, because dropouts happen, and especially during holidays or bank holidays, and it's really important to have that system in place. And yes, making sure to call respondents the day before, just to remind them to be on time. It's something that's very important as well. I think in France, conducting research with global brands, there is often this assumption that English is spoken to a fluent level across Europe, because that's true in the Nordic countries, and in Germany or the Netherlands. The majority of the population speaks English fluently, but it's not necessarily the case in Latin countries. So Spain, Portugal, Italy, France. And whether it's due to education or the culture, or maybe a bit of resistance to globalization, that's not really the topic of the discussion today. But what it means in practice is that when, for example, conducting a project in a Nordic country or in Germany and a Latin country in parallel, it's really important, I think, to make sure that you have invested in translation of material, of stimuli, but also the discussion guide, because it can really make a difference. And I think being able to translate it not only, but also to adapt it to the market, making sure that there is enough time for the warm-up, because it's the same in France as in Spain. We cannot start a group just with a 3-minute warm-up. We need a bit more. I need to make sure participants are at ease, and that's how they're going to be able to open up, and it's gonna create a really rich and insightful discussion. It's really crucial to have those 5, sometimes 10 minutes to prepare respondents. And then switching from the vous to the tu at some point in the discussion when you feel that participants are really engaged. I think also I've been in I've conducted projects where the stimuli weren't necessarily translated, or parts of it were still in English, not only participants are not necessarily going to understand, but you're actually going to alienate them, and sometimes they can disengage from the research. I remember moderating online communities where people were really offended that some of the stimuli was in English. There were a few words here and there, and people just felt a bit upset and embarrassed because sometimes they couldn't understand, and we were asking them questions about it, and they didn't know what to say. I also have I also worked on a project where the client wanted to show some kind of short film of the life of John Baldessari, which is an American artist. I think he's well known in the US and in the UK, but in France, he's not known at all. So they were really pushing to show that video without any subtitles, and I really explained that was not possible because it was not only the language, it was also the cultural reference that didn't work in this case. And yes, I think I wanted to touch a bit on cultural awareness as well, because I think it's really key to have a partner that has this cultural sensitivity, whether they are born in the country or they have this experience living in the country, being in the culture, and knowing how people think and how people feel. And yeah, it can really guide when you're adapting the discussion guide, the stimuli, and also when you're moderating the focus groups or the IDI, being actually part of the culture, people are going to open a bit more, and that's going to be really helpful for your project. Yeah, I don't know if anyone has anything to jump. I think we've touched a bit on everything.
I wanted to add about languages as well.
Yes.
Perhaps because Enrique was talking about having different languages in a country. And I think that sometimes when clients conduct research in Spain, they choose the location sometimes because they fancy and they go into that city. Like, for example, Barcelona is a popular choice that people just want to go to Barcelona. And sometimes they forget that in Barcelona, besides speaking Spanish, there is another co-official language, which is Catalan, and that everybody speaks. And sometimes there are also political reasons why some people would actually not want to speak in Spanish. So you would need to make sure that you are screening people if you want to conduct research in Spanish, because that's the case, and you need a SIM translator that you're paying for, translate from Spanish, that everybody's going to be happy having discussions in Spanish. And I'm talking about Barcelona because it's an obvious choice, because it's the second largest city in Spain. But in Valencia, we also have Valenciano. There's 4 co-official languages. There's Catalan, there's Valenciano, there's Gallego in Galicia up north, and there is Basque in the Basque country. So this is really important to consider when you're choosing where to conduct research. I'm not saying that you can't do it, but you need to consider these aspects.
Okay. So Alexander, do you want to tell us about cultural issues in... You're on mute.
Okay, so I'm gonna start with a quick comment about the Balkans as a whole, and mainly that it is completely different in each country. So those are research markets of 2, 3, 6, or max or 10, or Romania is 20 million, but small research markets. But the way people communicate, the way they consume goods, so the subject of the research, and even the way people do business is completely different. So even if there is a researcher who knows 2 or 3 Balkan languages, you really need a researcher in each market if you are doing focus group. If you are doing consumer research, you really do need that. Having said that, and to jump in on the topic about languages, it is really okay. So it is not methodologically correct, but it is really okay to do research in English, especially in B2B. It is a pretty safe bet because they are small countries. Most of them do business abroad, and it is okay for business to business, and even with consumer, unless for Bulgaria, if you are not specifically targeting over 55 or the lowest income level, it is perfectly okay. Again, it is not correct methodologically, but it is perfectly okay. And through my experience recruiting, having English as a recruitment requirement is not really relevant in terms of the people you get. You still get representative results for qualitative, and you still get meaningful participants, so that is about the Balkans. And yes, and getting back to the differences, for example, between Bulgaria and Serbia, the way you do business is completely different. In Bulgaria, it is very rarely when 2 companies negotiate once that to happen at a restaurant, one to buy the other lunch or something like that, whereas in Serbia and former Yugoslavia, that is common. Also, there people commonly send gifts to each other and so on. So there is that type of business communication, which in Bulgaria isn't really a thing. Here, a company takes their partner to dinner only if they are traveling and staying for the night. So that is the thing. And going to and then turning to Bulgaria, because that is where I have really done consumer research. Here people are really so they're open in terms of starting the communication and and having the appearance of being open to participation. But what is common is that people try to present themselves as being competent or more competent they are. So there is that factor of people thinking that they have to do good on the focus group or the interview, which is a bit of a problem sometimes, especially if you are not used to it. Otherwise, in terms of in terms of rejection, in terms of openness, there are no really problems compared to other countries. Incentives work really well in Bulgaria. Recruitment is not that difficult, but the dynamic between interviewer and respondents is generally open, and they are not for, if you are doing in-depth interview or within the focus group, you rarely have a respondent that says, I do not want to answer that, or I don't want to discuss that topic. So it is really easy comparatively to do work, to do research in Bulgaria, and what I've heard in the other Balkan countries. The thing is that we are moving in terms of way of communication slowly towards what is common in Western Europe. So again, incentives work a bit less than how they work 10 years ago. Rejections are a bit higher, and so on. But in short, people are really open in terms of the formal way of talking. In Bulgaria, that is actually expected. So you can have even in the focus group very emotional and in-depth discussion with everyone referring to the other person formally, but that, I guess, is just the language thing. And I mentioned about that doing research is English is okay, showing text in English is okay, because even here we have brands are in Latin, and yes, it is expected. But what is not okay is showing Bulgarian in Cyrillic. So Bulgarian text in Latin script, that is really not okay. So because Bulgaria is not like Serbia, where they use both Latin and Cyrillic script. In Bulgaria, it is only Cyrillic. We even use Cyrillic in WhatsApp or on Viber and so on. When we chat, we use Cyrillic, and everybody has used to changing the script. We even, in a sentence, when you write and you mention a brand or something like that, you switch and write it in Latin and switch back. So, another thing that is peculiar, and that is again to the region, is the holiday scheduling, and especially late March and early April, which has personally created a lot of difficulties for me when doing a multinational project, or when a client from a Western European country has to be directly involved. And that is due to the two Easters, because when it is the Catholic Easter, you have a lot of bank holidays in Western Europe, and when there is the Orthodox Easter, it is the same here. And when they are 1 or 2 weeks apart, you basically have a month with with 10 or even less than 10 business working days, which can be an issue. So it is an issue in Orthodox countries. In Bulgaria, it is even more because St. George Day is a bank holiday and 24th of May is a bank holiday. So that part of the year is a bit difficult. So
Okay.
stop at that.
Okay, thank you. So we have just a comment so far from Mark. Did you want to say that, Mark? Shall I just a comment about stimulus?
Yeah, I was just think because I have this issue with stimulus not being translated, because I do and sometimes it's quite a task to translate, because I often am doing studies, because I speak several languages. I'm often doing studies which are in usually a small number of interviews in more than one country, and what I find is depending on who the audience is, that can sort of add to the length of the interview as well, if you're having to translate on the fly or explain things. And I mean, it's a conundrum, because sometimes the stimulus is quite detailed, and you know, it's it's not easy to get an accurate translation, and in some ways you have to talk it through with people to in the interview or in the group to get it done. But I agree that in general, having translated stimulus material is very important. I think having pre-translated discussion guides is in my case, is certainly it's less of an issue, because when you're doing B2B, a lot of the discussion is improvised one way or another. You're covering all the bases.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no, for the sorry, just to comment on the stimulus, if I can, in the Netherlands, I always translate the stimulus material as it's just closer to the heart if it's in Dutch language. Like most Dutch people, they will understand the English language, but it's just closer to the heart. And also what Mark said, if you need to spend time to explain it, and also there may be possible misinterpretation of it, it's just safer to have it in the local language.
Okay, and there was a comment also from Luca just saying about that having issues with conducting research in August in Italy as well, and I kind of think I'm aware that in different
Yes.
Spain that's an issue,
Yeah.
and I think in Scandinavia
Yes,
and
I
France.
definitely agree. When Alexander was talking about holidays in Bulgaria, I thought about that. So yeah, it's not really recommended to do any research in August in France. Sometimes we can go around, and there's always people who prefer to go on holidays in July, so you can use those people in August, but usually it's really not recommended.
That's the same in Spain. So
It's a definite no. I mean, what I would say is that in the beginning of setting up my own business, obviously, like everybody, I tried to accommodate clients in whichever way I could and be super flexible and make things happen, making impossible possible. But I soon realized that those requests of conducting fieldwork in Spain during the month of August became an absolute nightmare, because the only person working really hard was me, and I didn't have anybody else supporting me. Recruiters were away on holiday, venues were closed, and participants were away. So it's just not, it's a definite avoid time of the year. It's a no-go.
No, I once
Yes,
had.
I agree, and I was just thinking that a way to go around it is with online communities. I found that you can reach people more easily during this time, and they have the time to log in when they're on holidays, especially on light touch online communities. So there's a way to go around it with online communities, but yes, with focus groups, I forgot to say that, but yes, venues often closed, recruitment agencies are away.
I know I
For
would-
for Netherlands and Belgium, this is quite different. In Netherlands, they have holidays in July and August, spread of that. And in the Netherlands, there are 3 regions for the school holidays. You have North, Middle, and South, and this switches all the time. And they don't. They have their own holidays during July or August. So the north of the Netherlands this year, the south of the Netherlands, they start with the holidays, and the north has the last one at the end of August. So that's quite typical for the Netherlands, and the Belgium is more close to France and Spain and Italy. They have holidays July and August, but still more the bulk will go in August, and you need to keep that into mind.
Okay. Just thinking about an eye on time, moving on to the kind of the second topic area. I think we kind of caught all the questions and comments, but obviously with another chance for questions at the end. The second topic was kind of looking at how the kind of relationship with researchers from other countries has changed in recent years. And I guess we've had Brexit, we've had a pandemic, and we've had changes in technology and changes in in a lot of changes in recent years, and some of those are ongoing and still evolving, like AI and so on. So I'm just interested in getting your view on those kind of recent changes and future changes. And I think we need to be a little bit brief for this time going through, but I think Sylvie, you were going to kick off with this bit.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely. There's been a combination of factors that has changed the relationship that we have with each other in business in general, but also the way we relate to other researchers, clients, partners in business in different countries. I believe it has become a bit less personal, which is a shame, a bit less of a personal relationship. I feel that especially since the pandemic, we have all defaulted into conference calls and Zoom calls, and so it is I find it a lot more rare to be invited for a briefing, like to attend a briefing in London, like I used to be invited all the time, for example, or anywhere else, or go to France, or maybe for a debrief, there is still the occasion in which people actually have a meeting in person. But in general, this is all happening now online most of the time. Also because we have the ability to do it, which maybe in the past it wasn't around, and we weren't as used to using these tools. But yeah, it is a little bit of a downfall in that sense. On the topic of Brexit, I think it's this is more. I'm going more on a feeling rather than actual facts and figures. Maybe other panelists or maybe attendees know if there is if this is the case or not. But what I have noticed is that before Brexit, like basically most of my projects or the bulk of my clients were coming mostly from the UK. And what I see now is that I maintain the relationship with my regular clients, but I see that the source of the leading researcher for international or global projects, it's more diversified. Like I'm saying, like more projects also coming from other countries like Belgium or like Germany or other countries. I'm not saying that it has been displaced or replaced by X or Y country, but what I'm saying is I see more of a diversity, which could mean that maybe a trend, or maybe there is a possibility that the UK is no longer seen as being so in touch with what's going on in Europe, or that has maybe lost legitimacy to conduct projects in Europe. I'm not saying that myself, but I'm saying that the feeling is that my clients are more diverse, and talking about the ones who are leading the project. But let's see how other people feel about it.
Yeah. So who wants? Kimi, do you want to jump in on that?
I think for me, because my specificity is to be based in the UK, so most of my clients are UK-based businesses, market research agencies, sorry. So I've not really noticed that. But what I've noticed is that I tend to work on projects where the markets are actually France and another European market, and there isn't necessarily the UK included in the markets where we are conducting the project. So yeah, maybe there is a shift. I think it will be interesting to see what happens in the future, to see if that's a shift, a trend, or it was maybe just temporary.
So any other changes that you would impact you, like Alex, Alexander?
Well, just to say that I haven't seen any changes myself, because I've always communicated with clients the same way, predominantly email and online, and even really limited calls or things like that. What has changed a bit with Brexit is that the social research part has been shifted towards Belgium more than the UK, and because on the Balkans social research is much higher share, because the European institutions and they have research per country. So, and generally what we see that is the same social research budget from the European institutions that goes into France, the same goes to Bulgaria, and for Bulgaria that's a lot. And so here the share is a bit different, and there has been that shift towards Belgium offices of the multinationals recruiting subcontractors instead of their UK teams.
Enrique, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, for me personally, work consequence of Brexit, I don't see much changes. For me, for me, it hasn't much changed. For me, the biggest change is since COVID, that it's really online. And I mean, for Dutch and Belgium, for me, it's 98% online. And in general, it's 98% online, what I do. But also, I really see a change in like 10 years ago when I would jump a lot on conference calls and calls with suppliers and clients. Now it's mostly email, and you have the pre-brief and the debrief. Then you speak to persons, but otherwise it's a lot email, unless there are things that need to be clarified. Then I jump on a call. So I see there the biggest change.
Mm-hmm. And how do you feel about it? Because Sylvia was saying she feels it's less kind of personal, and it's, I think, do you feel you're missing something?
Yeah, I really enjoy people meeting face to face, and that's why I used to go always every year. I used to go to a big conference to at least meet people, and then try to make appointments with clients and potential clients to meet people face to face, because it's good and nice to see people and to understand, to catch up. So yeah.
I also think there are many things that we miss when we're not included in those early conversations, or it's not happening face to face, and we don't know what we have missed until there's something that happens in the project and we realize, oh, we haven't talked about that, or this is actually crucial to the client, and we haven't covered that. And I think when we were doing more face-to-face briefings or just meeting more in person, the conversation was also maybe more organic, or going a bit differently than during the online meetings or by email. So there's also lots of things that we miss, other than the sense of it being more personal and building more of a closer relationship, I think. I don't know if anyone agrees with that.
Completely. And I just got a pop-up from the chat from Luca Meyer saying that a drink of beer can clarify a lot of things. And I would totally agree. Like sometimes I would go with clients after a set of several focus groups or like lots of interviews, and it feels like everything is a bit messy in your head after listening to so many people. But then we go for dinner, and then we all come up with lots of aha moments. We're like, oh yeah, and then you saw that, and it flows, and everything fits into the right place. And somehow we've done a deep brief. It's been a lot of fun because we were having a glass of wine as well, and nice food and laughs. And I agree with what Enrique is saying, that it is important to try and compensate, find ways to still meet in person with your partners in different countries. So either through what we're doing through meetups online, but also in person in conferences and other occasions. It is really good to meet your clients and to meet your partners in business in different countries. And just because I see that we're getting to the end of the meeting, and for the future, I'd like to say that I would personally hope for that stronger, closer collaborations, and also more opportunities to meet, like we were saying. And also, I hope that we all walk a little bit in the same direction in crucial things. Like, for example, yesterday, we got the AI new law coming out of Parliament in Europe. So I hope that we have common grounds also for sharing views and guidelines to do with AI, with data privacy, with all these things, so that European countries and the UK, it is easy to work with each other. So that's my hope for the future, that things become easier for everyone to work really nicely together.
So any quick thoughts from the other panelists in terms of hopes for the future, that kind of what you'd like to see, and if anyone wants to put their camera on and to ask a question, now would be a good time to switch it on. But thoughts from the rest of the panel in terms of what you'd hope to see, positive change that you'd hope for.
Yeah, I agree what Sylvia said, like with this AI framework, AI regulation, standardization, where is it going? Will it be standardized and will it be all clear? Because for me, it's also an important part is the international across pan-Europe. So that is that we are working in the same direction and working from the same, from the same, how do you say, base.
Yeah. Any other thoughts for the future? Alexander, Camille?
Well, I do hope that there will be growth in more marketing connected research in the region, which fall with the income level growth, hopefully. But yes, and I also hope that the good things we have now in terms of people openness remain the same. And also that we in Bulgaria have this trait of we don't want to get embarrassed in front of foreigners, and that really helps sometimes. So I also that this trait remains the same. So basically to keep the best of the old and the new, but you never get that. Do you?
Diana, did you want to say something? You're on mute.
Sorry.
That's right.
Yeah, I just wanted to say in terms of how clients see the ICG, because my experience as an independent very recently has been that the end clients, you know, they're big corporations, but when I'm subcontracted by, you know, a Kantar or an Ipsos or whatever, I have a strong feeling that a lot of clients, even the very big ones, really like working with independents. because they feel a sense of flexibility, availability, which isn't there from the big research agencies, et cetera, and I have a sense, nobody has explicitly said this to me, but I just get a feeling. The only thing that holds them back of going straight to the independents is when they're doing multi-country research, does she have a network? Like, does she have a group of people? If I want to do 4 markets, can she do that? Or do I have to find 4 different research, et cetera? And I think it's maybe, I don't know how the ICG markets and communicates itself to clients, but it might be a little lever for us, I think, to stress to clients what a strong network we are, and that a lot of us do work together quite frequently, as just a kind of, you know, a reassurance for those clients who don't want the extra work of coordinating markets. So it's just a thought to throw out there for the ICG going forward.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
Or maybe in the contact database, that you, instead of looking for research, that you can filter on region, that you say West Europe, East Europe, and that you then have popping up the consultants within there. I don't think that we have this search function, no?
I'm not sure. Is it just
No,
by...
it's just a word search at the moment if you wanted to find people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I would
certainly food for thought, because we're
Yeah.
going to be working on our website with the new branding and everything. So maybe that's something that we could try and incorporate and promote a little bit.
Yeah. And I would say, kind of, you know, not just is it possible for independents, I think independents coordinating international research are a better option, because if you're Ipsos, then your chances are you're going to go to local offices most of the time who may or may not be
the best
researchers, whereas we're selecting the best researcher for that project. And that,
absolutely.
so it's a kind of more bespoke team. So yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, regarding that, I would say that it is a good idea if you already have colleagues that you work with from the ICG, for example, in different countries. When you write a proposal for your client, or you introduce the idea of conducting or coordinating a global project, to actually introduce these partners that you have, like do like a bit of like a bio with a photograph, so they get to know these people, and they realize that they're actually people that you work closely on a regular basis with. So I think that can set everything apart, and also even include us, invite us to a brief, and we can, most of us are available to attend a potential a briefing for a potential project, global project.
So Matt, I think we're going to have to wrap it up now. Yeah. We've run out of time. Thank you to everyone for joining us today. Thank you particularly to Alexander, Sylvia, Enrique, Camille, and to Matt for coordinating it all. Do join us for our next international research webinar, which is coming up on the 11th of April, when we're going to be discussing China and Southeast Asia. So another really interesting topic for those of you who are interested in or do international research. Okay, that's it. Thanks very much indeed for joining us today. Have a lovely afternoon, and see you next time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.